I find that low self-esteem is often at the core, or is the basis, for most of our disorders. Anxiety, attention deficit disorder, depression. Most of the prevailing mental and emotional disorders are at the core attributable to low self-esteem, which is a curious thing because the DSM, the Psychiatric Bible of Diagnoses, has no diagnosis for low self-esteem, probably because they haven't developed a drug that they can prescribe to treat low self-esteem. But the most valuable thing we can do in our lives is to understand the concept of self-esteem, look at whether our sense of self feels challenged or not, and then come to address this question of how do we improve low self-esteem. I think that the term self-esteem, actually the way we use it, is a misnomer. I've recently written a series of 3 articles on self-esteem. One of them is entitled Self-Esteem or Other-esteem. Let me tell you what I mean. Typically, what makes somebody feel good about themselves is popularity, positive reinforcement, achievement, success. Yet the irony is those things don't lie within the self. They lie outside yourself. So think that as a child, as an adolescent, as a young adult, you may have crafted your personality in a certain way to avoid disapproval, to get approval, to be funny, to be liked. All valuable things, but on a very subtle, insidious level, we're starting to betray our own authentic self so we can get approval from out there. That is what I call other-esteem. You might consider an immensely successful business person. Somebody earning $50 million a year must have positive self-esteem. No. And I've worked with many such individuals who don't. Their insecurity may drive them to great success, but at what cost? If they're never at peace with themselves, then their success becomes somewhat tainted. So this fear of rejection, this sense of I am who others think I am, this whole concept of other-esteem is essential that we begin to look at and understand to develop authentic self-esteem. Now let's look at what contributes to your challenges with low self-esteem. Ordinarily, they have to do with a core belief about yourself, some way in which you feel less than, not good enough. Ask yourself, what is my core belief or core beliefs about myself that I feel challenged about, where I don't feel good enough? Now, those core beliefs typically occurred from experiences in childhood. They may have been glaring, traumatic, and overt, or they may have been subtle and beneath the radar. Whichever way they came to you, whatever the messaging was, they started to inform this sense of self which was simply not good enough, insufficient. Now, with that core belief about your self-esteem, that set up millions upon millions of thoughts that you'll have that correspond to that core belief. So the low self-esteem becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy based upon the core belief about yourself. A question was recently asked of me, does our culture do anything to perpetuate our trying to get more and more other-esteem? Yes, our culture offers a very, very damaging myth, which most people accept. And that is that vulnerability is weak and should be avoided at all costs, and it's important to act strong. Now let's just take a look at that concept. If I'm acting strong, an emphasis on the word act, if I'm acting strong, whatever I'm feeling insecure about, vulnerable about, I'm hiding from you and from others. Now, the very act of hiding my vulnerability weakens me. It means I'm more concerned with what you think of me than how I feel about myself. This leads to other-esteem and it decimates self-esteem. So what am I proposing? I am proposing that we embrace our vulnerability. Embracing vulnerability is powerful. It's strong. It's a very, very powerful statement that my relationship with myself counts. Rejection and judgment are two tremendous themes prevalent in people who struggle with self-esteem: the fear of being rejected and the fear of being judged. When you have developed a healthy, authentic self-esteem, you're not worried about others' judgments because you don't enable other people to be your judge. You see, everyone has an opinion. It's natural. But why would I elevate someone's opinion to a judgment? As far as I'm concerned, the only person who can be my judge presides in the courthouse and wears long black robes. But if I take somebody else's thoughts about me and turn it into a judgment, I've done that. You see, what I'm doing is, because I'm judging myself, I'm then projecting that out onto others and giving them the right to judge me. Important questions to ask yourself in your desire to improve your self-esteem. What is the core belief I have about myself where I feel insufficient and not good enough? What do the thoughts look like that come cascading out of that belief? How have I adapted? What coping mechanism have I put into play to protect myself from that challenge to my self-esteem? The answers to this will lead you to where you are out of balance. Another way to look at self-esteem is to come into balance, to give myself permission to be myself. And again, we need to look at our thoughts very specifically and the nature of our thoughts. What are our thoughts telling us? If you struggle with low self-esteem, the likelihood is that the majority of your thoughts are inclining toward limiting you, marginalizing you, telling you why other people are better than you, having you limit your own authentic, natural way of being because you're always self-examining yourself. You can learn to break free of perhaps a lifetime of this habit. One, you have to believe it's possible, and two, you have to make the commitment to your process to do it. And by the way, it doesn't have to take a long time, but it does require the focused and the earnest commitment to do it.